My name's Steve Nesbitt. I'm a technical solutions professional for Modern Desktop in the UK, and I'm joined by my colleague.
I'm Steve Rue. I'm a principal program manager in Office, working on a lot of the release and delivery experiences and how to best deploy the ProPlus updates, not only internally but externally for you guys, and giving you the best practices to do that.
So I guess from my side, I've spent quite a lot of the last 3 years or so speaking to large organizations about their Office rollout and how they're looking to move to the newest client. And it's fair to say that the section that I'm going to be talking about today, application compatibility, is a big part of the reason why that's taken some time for a lot of organizations. And so the idea of today's session really is to talk a little bit about the various different rings of validation and how you should go about managing a ProPlus deployment through its life cycle. And also introducing our sort of next wave of tools for application and compatibility. So allowing you to get a good insight into the VBAs, the macros, the add-ins, the things that you're using within your Office environment, enabling and getting an understanding of how prevalent they are and how you might remediate them so you're able to move to the latest version of Office without having major user disruption. So with that, I'll hand over to Steve to cover the first part.
Thanks, Steve. So I want to land one point with you guys today, and that point is how to think about the rings of validation in your enterprise and how to change your mindset to the notion that you can just deploy updates and let them run. And you don't have to actually verify and prove that they're quality proficient to your enterprise, mainly because you're going to have to be successful with ProPlus. I'll get into the details on that. But first, why should you care about the rings in general? The most important reason is it allows you to efficiently validate our software against your environment. Before our updates get out to you, we've already gotten millions of users between consumers and SMBs trying out all the features, giving us all the feedback. We have all the telemetry from millions and millions of users letting us know what's working, what's not working. By the time it gets to you, what we can't always guarantee is what's going to happen with your own line of business apps, the macros you have, any of the add-ins that we might not verify internally. So really the intent is to make sure that it works in your environment. You should be able to have confidence that in general, we've done our due diligence. In general, we can guarantee that it's going to work as well as we could have predicted. And so it's really that last mile of what can we expect in your environment that we can't find earlier. Next, the rings provide a containment mechanism to isolate and assess risk. So it's all about a strategy of managing risk. You don't want to deploy out to everyone all at once to learn that you hit an issue that impacted everybody, right? So how can you set up and deploy in a way where when something does go wrong, when that add-in doesn't work the way you expected it to, the impact is minimized to a handful of users and not everyone. It's just a general proven strategy of how to deploy across the services. And with ProPlus, we're really moving in that direction with the way it works, the way we're including features, the way we're moving forward. It's more like a service than a client application in a lot of ways. A lot of the things that you would think for a service to do, how it would operate, how it would guarantee that things are going to work or not work, well, use that mindset to the client. Yeah, it's on the desktop, but most of the things are service-backed anyway. And so this is the mechanism we're using across the board. It seems to be working really well. Apply it to the ProPlus client. We will have a specific period in the release, which we'll get into later, where you can actually give us the issues that you do find. So when there's minimal sets of users that may encounter the issues, that's your time to give us the feedback of what doesn't work in your environment, allow us to fix it, and then deploy out broadly in your enterprise, such that the majority of your enterprise, when you do deploy, has confidence that it's going to work. And then it allows you to, related to the mitigating risk, find a way to protect the mission-critical devices and make sure that they aren't impacted whenever things do go wrong. And the way you would do that by using a represented sample of the devices in the pilot ring prior. And I'll go into much more detail on what represented means later. So a few definitions to make sure that we're all talking about the same things throughout this. One, when I refer to a release, what I'm really talking about is one of the official production builds we've been released to a channel. So examples of this would be like Windows 10 version 1703 and Microsoft Office ProPlus version 1703. So think of it as that release that contains the new features or feature sets at any given time. And most of what I'm going to talk about here would apply to both Windows 10 and ProPlus. And so when you think about the rings, we should be talking about the same way, and we should be able to use most of this interchangeably. When I refer to channel, I'm referring to the stream of releases that are coming on a predictable cadence to those devices. And so think of that as the semi-channel targeted or the semi-annual channel broad. And those are just what you point your device to, such that when a new feature is available, they get them. And then a ring is the set of machines. I'm sorry, it should be release. That's the wrong slide. So the release is a set of machines assigned to, I'm sorry, I changed the order. The ring is the set of machines that are subscribed to a channel. And so those are the machines at any given time. What they should be getting would be the latest channel, but because of throttling, things like that, they may not. And so it may be a little bit of a mismatch of the devices in the ring, but the intent would be over time, they'd all be on the same release. The ring is not a deployment thing in terms of the how you want to manage the deployment in terms of ordering. If you want to deploy to 3 sets of audiences, rings probably aren't the right notion for that. That's a deployment practice that you want to handle separately. The ring would just be what the intent of the feature set would be at some point in time. So one of the big challenges that we're trying to address with the rings, and why this new mindset will work better with ProPlus than it would have worked in the past, is in the past you were used to getting one release, let's say every 3 years. Let's be optimistic and say you took every one of them. So every 3 years you got a whole bunch of new features. So you got a whole bunch of features all at once. With ProPlus, I can throw out a scary number for you and say, well, every 3 years you can get 6 releases of features, right? Accurate statement, but you have to factor in that each release you're getting way fewer features. And so any given time you're deploying a new release out to your enterprise, the validation and surface area of what's changed is significantly smaller than it had been in the past. So it is true you're getting more releases in the same period of time, but it's also true you're getting way less at any given time. So how to think about the rings? There's really 2 rings to focus on for validation, and this is going to be consistent across ProPlus and Windows 10. The first notion is, where do you pilot and validate the new releases in your enterprise? Well, there's the 2 times a year semi-annual channel targeted release, which is targeted around March and September of each year. And we encourage you to put a representative set of your devices on your enterprise in that channel, getting those updates. And in those first 4 months or so of that release being available, give us the feedback of what's not working in your enterprise. We can actually turn around pretty quickly and fix issues that may arise during that time frame. So the better you can front load and find those issues in that ring, the better it is for both you and us. After that, for broad deployment, you want to go to the semi-annual channel. That's, again, 2 times a year, and that is around January and July, corresponding with the March and September releases that I mentioned earlier. And this should just be the rest of your enterprise. And so this should be you've already, from your representative set of devices, gotten the feedback, know what may or may not be working, gotten us the feedback to fix the things we needed to fix, and now you're good to go for the rest of your enterprise, right? Now, the question we get all the time is, well, I have to develop apps within my enterprise, and it's nice to know ahead of time that those may work or what's changing so I can adapt sooner. And also, I'd like to get a heads up to what's coming next. I don't want to be surprised in the last day and have to get the security and compliance reviews of new features that I may or may not be able to roll out and be surprised by that. So if it's helpful for you, you can think of the monthly channel, which is every month we release new features. If you want the IT admins yourselves, some of the developers on that channel, great. Don't really encourage using that broadly for validation unless you're really confident that you don't have a lot of add-ins and things that may break. Think of this as the users that have a higher tolerance and want to know just what's coming, right? So this is, do you see the feature coming? Let's say it was clutter in Outlook, and you saw that ahead of time before it was being available to the majority of your enterprise. So you could go through the compliance checks and things like that that may be necessary, depending on where your enterprise is located. It's just to give you a heads up, right? How this all ties together with the servicing model is, for Office, we do ship every month. So every month, like I said, there's a new set of features coming out. We end up rolling up those full set of features over the last 6 months into the semi-annual channel targeted. And if you look, after those 4 months, those exact same features, plus the security updates, plus the hot fixes we took based on your feedback, end up going into the release in July and January for broad deployment. So we're not going to pull the rug out from underneath you. We're saying if you're on the monthly and you're seeing what's coming, well, that's what's going to be coming later. When you do get to the semi-annual channel targeted, what you're validating there, giving us feedback on, that is what's going to be made for broad deployment within your enterprise. And so you should be gaining confidence throughout the whole rhythm here of what's to come and having confidence in the model. So I've mentioned a bunch now about how to have a representative set, and that's super important, and what does that mean? So having the users on the earlier ring is only good and helpful if they're using the things that are going to be used by the users across the rest of your enterprise. So if you only deployed the targeted release to, let's say, the IT department in your enterprise, it seems safe at a high level. If you think about it, you're probably not using all of the add-ins, macros, et cetera, that the rest of the company is going to be using. So what did you really gain confidence in by doing that? You only really proved the core functionality, which we've already gotten millions and millions of users using, right? And so the first question to ask yourself is, at a high level, are most of my departments or all of my departments included in the targeted channel? If not, consider adding them. At a high level, you at least can strike the checkbox of they're probably using similar things in the departments, and I'll at least get better coverage that way. Try to find someone from your legal department, finance, et cetera, to make up that usage. Next, does it include enough of the different usage scenarios within the departments? So this is the next level. If there's different add-ins used by different groups in the departments, consider how you can include those as well. Next, are the various OSs included? Are you still in the transition of moving from Windows 7 to Windows 10? If so, you probably want some Windows 7 and some Windows 10 devices in your targeted ring for the ProPlus deployments. Things change that we depend on in the OS. Same for your add-ins and whatnot. You probably want that represented set as well. And then finally, kind of a catch-all, are there any other pivots that might be interesting to you? And this could vary from enterprise to enterprise. Some examples might be, are you in a mix of x86, x64? How many cultures and languages do you support in your enterprise? How many of those do you find issues with or maybe more important to make sure are right? And maybe ensure those are in the earlier rings. So just work through the exercise of how can I get more and more and more representation of that earlier ring? And the more representation you have, the higher confidence you have when you go broad. So you're thinking, that's great. There's always going to be gaps, right? So what do you do for the gaps that you can't cover this way? Well, just focus the testing and resources on the gaps that you know they're important to cover and the mission-critical scenarios that you absolutely can't afford to take an issue with. Once you scope your testing to there, then just rely on the piloting for users in the enterprise for the majority of the validation. Windows is supplying tools and whatnot that you might have seen in the earlier sessions to see the overall health of the apps in your enterprise. And so you can use that data to inform how this is going, in addition to your own support mechanisms and whatnot you have within your enterprise. So before I hand it back off to Stephen, do you have any quick questions before we move on?
So everyone here completely understands all the channels, absolutely everything. There you go.
Is your Office going to align with OneDrive? Is OneDrive going to align with this Office channel, or are they going to do their own thing?
So the question, sorry, I'll just repeat the question. So the question was, is OneDrive for Business, the sync client, going to align with the Office update cadence?
Those are conversations that we're having. When we're looking at the cadence attached to these things, the OneDrive sync client right now is much more tuned to what the backing services and whatnot are doing. And they need to be a little bit more adaptive to being able to take the change and move forward with that than what the Office suite would need to be right now. And so what would happen if we try to make that change immediately is you'd probably have a worse experience, not a better experience than what you'd have. We fully recognize at some point we need to have better alignment and be able to have a fuller story here. But we also want to make sure we're doing the right thing and making sure we have the highest quality releases available to you that we can have. And right now, that's the better situation to be in as that keeps evolving. So
yeah, and I'd say some people aren't aware that you can slightly hold back some of the OneDrive updates. There are separate rings for that, but they're not as flexible as the ones in the Office client. I think from my perspective, looking from a customer's perspective, it reminds me of the conversations I've had around Microsoft Teams, for example. So Teams is something that comes out and it's updated from a desktop build point of view, in a completely different way to the rest of Office. Whether that'll change or not, I'm not entirely sure, but that's where we are at the moment. Sorry.
So one of the question I heard this week was, what is the difference between a tenant and a channel? So maybe you may want to.
A tenant and a channel, okay. I'm assuming an Office 365 tenant. Yeah, okay. So an Office 365 tenant is your location within Microsoft's data centers or our Azure data center that's providing Office 365. So the terrible analogy I always use is if the Office 365 data center is a block of apartments, the tenant is your apartment within that block, if you like. And that's basically your place within that area, and you can get into it, nobody else can. The channels that we're talking about here, and Steve's just talked about, are really choices that you make as to when your Office build deploys. And we had this question on the booth the other day, and I think there's still some misunderstanding here that your ability to control updates of Office and your ability to control updates of Office 365 are completely separate. Okay? So if you tick first release in Office 365, doesn't mean you're suddenly getting Office builds faster, right? So they're separate conversations and separate things to understand. Does that help? Yeah. Sorry, there was one there.
Why did Microsoft discontinue using WSUS to send out updates for the Office?
You can with System Center, right?
So we still support using System Center for Click to Run. The change is really with Click to Run, which would have been true in 2013 as well. And we had to pick which endpoints to use and which tools to focus our efforts in. Config Manager and Intune in the future are the places to be for managing the deployments. And so we really put the focus on making sure Config Manager works in the ways you configure it. Anything that you would have been, not anything, most things that you would have been doing before, at least from a process standpoint with SCCM for the MSI deployments in the past, a lot of that functionality is available in a different location, but still there within SCCM. So Config Manager should fill the gap for a lot of the things, but it's not a replacement for, it's not a complete one-to-one replacement with WSUS. Right.
So with the layout of the different rings, we're going to have some overlap. We're going to have some that are running a particular targeted channel on Windows 7, but they also may be on a Windows 10 targeted channel, but on a I forget what the other pilot tower. Do you have ways of tracking the health of those different rings, or is it all just one big conglomeration?
So they're still separated between Windows and Office and what you need to do to configure the rings. To be representative, if you're in that state, if you do have some Windows 7, you do have some Windows 10, you have some ProPlus, you have some not ProPlus, you do want to make sure that the bulk of it is where you want to be. So you want to make sure the bulk of your users are going to be representing that, ideally Windows 10 plus ProPlus. But to help you isolate when issues do arise, it could be hard if you're moving to the latest Windows 10 and ProPlus at the same time and then something doesn't work. Was the latest Windows 10 or is the latest ProPlus? That's hard to know. So having some sample that is the missing sets there is helpful in diagnosing when issues do arise. So I think what you're describing is the environment you want to be in. You do want some of that overlap until you can get to that North Star of everything's later.
The problem is that for business reasons, there are some things that we won't be able to do. Is it possible to track those that fall within that Venn diagram that overlap there, or ones that are outside of that separately?
We're working on trying to improve some of those experiences for you. Step one was just getting to the similar cadences and aligning Windows and Office together on when you can expect the semi-annual releases to happen. If you notice, if we're having this talk a year ago, we would have had different names, different time frames, and different support durations for all of these things. So we are aligning to that point right now. We're continuing to focus engineering and tooling to further make this easier and easier, not just conceptually easier. And so those are things we're working on. So look out for that.
Okay, one more, and then we'll. Oh God, 3 hands go up in the middle.
We want to control the updates like from a shared location instead of from content delivery network. What is your recommendation?
Config Manager.
Yeah.
As well as what channel should we be on?
Doesn't. You should still use the methodology that I described for the rings, even if you're controlling when the updates go out yourself. And so basically take everything I talked about and configure to, I now have to use SCCM to configure which group of devices get that release at this time, which group of devices get it later, and just manage it yourself rather than relying on RCDN and tech like that to do it for you.
Yeah.
But conceptually, the model that I described would apply the same whether you're using Config Manager or just letting them flow from the CDNs naturally like it would by default.
Yeah. So.
Another question, what about the volume version we have like MSI-based versions?
So MSI is obviously a different deployment methodology.
This really strictly just applies to trying to manage ProPlus and Windows 10. As you go back further, the rate of change that you're talking about is much more minimal. Once you're already on 2010 or 2013 Office, all that we're deploying at this point are security updates and hotfixes. And even for those, hotfix volume is way lower now that it's been out there for a while. So it's borderline just security at this point, right? And so the churn and the types of things that you need to watch out for and verify are much, much, much smaller. The surface area is super tiny. For ProPlus, the big difference, and for Windows 10 also, is that you're getting new features with each of these releases. It's not just the security and just the hotfixes. And so with that change, you really need that change in mindset and the different way of managing this. Because if you try to do all of the things that you used to do in the past when you're going from, let's say, 2007 to 2013 MSI, you'll never keep up. You'll never be able to do all the test passes and all of the things that you used to do to prove quality of that next release before you deployed it. The good news is, there's, like I said before, there's way fewer features each time, right? And so this different type of model and mindset now is a conversation to have, and I think we can try to gain confidence with and move towards. Whereas in the past, we wouldn't have suggested this model from side. Knowing what we know now, we still wouldn't suggest this for going from 2007 to 2013, as an example, right? That's one cost you're just going to have to pay up front, and then you can get into this rhythm.
I think it's a good point that you make in the beginning, just to reiterate the idea that the actual channel is you can select, but you can also select where the builds are actually taken from. So obviously the channel itself describes the build that will be placed in the point that System Center then references for the actual package. So you can actually separate those two things out, and there's a myriad of different ways of configuring, where a particular client gets its updates from. Sorry, did we have? I'm sorry, could you?
So the question was, is there an easy way to go from 32-bit to 64-bit? Kind of.
We'll get to that just in a second. So I think from a point of view of just general practice, each time that you update Office, you're effectively deploying a new build. So you can choose to deploy the 64-bit and then deploy the 32-bit. Where we'll talk in a second is around potential compatibility issues with VBAs and things like that, moving from a 32 to a 64-bit platform. But technically speaking,
ignoring the app compat aspect of it, which we'll go into more detail later, but just getting moving the bits on the machine of Office from 32-bit to 64-bit, saying we don't care about the add-ins for right now. It's easy in that once you're on click to run, it's just another update. That one will be more like an upgrade in terms of it will actually download all of the bits. You're not going to get the benefit of the binary delta compression. So it'll be a relatively painful one-off for that update because it's going to have to be a larger update, right? But after you get there, it should be more similar to just any other update for that channel.
Okay, we'll do one more, sorry, and then we'll move on.
Release some new ADMX records to reflect this deferred ring, because we have ADMX records for deferred, now with enterprise, and we're pushing CI/CD items, we're using the GPOs, but then Intune guys said to don't use GPOs and use MDM policies.
We're actively working with Intune to continue to fill any gaps that may exist and go on. I'm actually less familiar with the Intune scenarios, so that's really all the further I can go. But I know we're definitely working on making sure that the capabilities that you have from Config Manager and things like that make sense are going to be available through Intune. But Intune's new. We're still trying to catch up and add in all the features and functionality to make that be true. So.
ADMX records will reflect the rings now, so I meant policy to have to set rings instead of deferred.
So it's really the channel that you're setting. So it's the update URL that's getting changed. Whether you're using GPO or if you're changing the registry or config manager, really what's getting changed on the device is the update URL. And so I'm not sure whether that is one of the properties within Intune or not today. I just don't know. I'm sorry.
It's not.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, sorry, we're going to have to just press on a little bit. We'll get back to you, I promise, at the end. So, we talked a little bit there about the actual rings and the deployment methods, or well, the deployment options, really going through the different channels of how you set up a program there. What I just want to talk about now is looking at the readiness of your environment and the Office versions that you currently have to move to Office 365 ProPlus. So, how many people here have run the Office telemetry dashboard? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Was it good? Yeah, okay, great. That's good news. So the Office telemetry dashboard was a way of effectively deploying an agent out to your versions of Office. You would put a put this agent into basically turn it on using GPOs, and it would bring in information around how that particular device, the copies of Office on that device were used. And it would bring this into a SQL database, and it would have certain amounts of useful information that you could draw from. However, it did differ between the 2016 and 13 versions of Office versus older versions of Office. There were some differences there in the amount of clarity of information that you got. And also, there was some setup required. You needed to deploy the agent. You needed to do all these kind of back-end setup pieces. So what we've looked to develop and roll out, and this is now actually available, is this Office 365 ProPlus Readiness Toolkit. And I was actually involved with the pilot group of companies actually looking to roll this out. And so really what we've kind of done here is create an executable file that you can run on devices that brings this information back to a centralized point and gives you a lot more information about exactly what add-ins you're running, what VBAs you're running, and we're also looking to help move you to a point where we can offer remediation advice to actually take those add-ins, rewrite them so that they're supported within Office 365 ProPlus. And the final point here is that this tool had to be simple. It had to be easy enough for a user just to be able to simply run on their PC and then bring that information back. And so this is something that we would hope that you would go away from today and start looking at before you start to look at Office 365 ProPlus. So let's just have a look at what it actually looks like. So the URL to actually get the device is on there. And we'll actually look at the report in a second, assuming I can log on to my device. And we'll have a look what it looks like. But basically, it creates, in the similar way as the Office telemetry dashboard did, it creates an Excel report where you can drill in and start to see what the number of VBAs and macros you have in your organization and how much of an issue they're going to be to move. Now, in actual fact, we find that having run this tool, the potential for problems is actually a lot less than people perhaps fear. It's maybe less than 10% of documents are running these add-ins or macros, VBA scripts or whatever. And effectively, perhaps the problem isn't as big as you might fear. But either way, it's nice to have that level of understanding before you start to roll out Office 365 ProPlus. So once you download the Readiness Toolkit there, it's deployable, as I said, as an executable. So you can roll it out and actually physically run it as an MSI, and the user can run that and create their own report. Or you can actually run it via a command line. And crucially, you can actually run this on multiple computers across your organization, have the information that it generates pushed into a central point, and then run a consolidated report across, say, 1,000 users' devices to see, across a wide set of organizations, just what add-ins and VBAs are being used. So what you can see on here is you have the ability to, a few different options of how people deploy this. You've got the ability to run it on your most recently used files on a local computer. You're actually able to look at to run it onto local folders or network shares as well. So you can actually have a look into a larger set of documents as to whether what's in there. And as I've just said, we are able to have the sort of stitched together readiness reports that are pulled from different places to give you an overall holistic view into what's going on. And finally, if you're using the Office telemetry dashboard, which is, obviously a few of you were, you can pull in the data from the Office telemetry dashboard into this report as well. So you can get a really good idea of what this looks like. Now, it does have a few limitations. And I think one of the major ones is that, the cloud storage areas aren't scanned as things stand at the moment. So it's mainly those on-premise network shares or locally held files on the computers. But it still gives you a great way of supporting the kind of pilot rings that we were talking about before, where you can spread out and say, well, we need to get an idea of what VBAs macros have been used across these particular departments, whether it's HR or finance, etc. We can run the tool across all those devices and bring back a really illuminating view of what's actually been used in those areas. So let me just flick over to hopefully the screen. Has that worked? Yep, it has. Great. So what we can see here is the actual report that is run from once we've run the executable. And you can see that in this case, it's found and processed 773 documents. 80% of them have no VBA macros, and 20% have them. So you automatically can see the sort of, the scale of the potential issue. And if I go over to the overview here, I get a very high-level summary, and then I can see the number of VBA macros that we've actually found. And we can see that 84 of them are ready to upgrade, and then there's levels of remediation that we feel are necessary to take those macros into a state where they're going to be able to be used with Office 365 ProPlus. And likewise, we can do the same with the files. So for the ones that we've isolated that did have these VBAs, 135 of them are ready to go, and only 5 of those files actually now require significant remediation at this point. Does that kind of make sense? Is there any questions on that so far? Yep.
Is this a local report for a device, or is it joint information from many devices?
In this case, I'm not entirely sure whether this is a dummy data set, I'm not entirely sure, but you can be either. It can be literally the information on that device, or it can be a consolidated report from multiple devices that's been combined together. Yeah, you have to go through and actually create a report based upon the information that's been pulled in a centralized location, but it's actually, there's a website you can go to which tells you, it basically gives you all the command lines that you need in order to do that.
What would be an example of a significant change needed to the files?
It's a good question. I knew somebody was going to ask that, and I'll bet I can't remember what the actual definition of it was. I've actually got a slide here. Yeah, so let me just flick back. Hopefully you should see my slide in a second. Or not. Which one were we on? Were we on 5? We're on 5, not 6. Right, okay. So those are the definitions of VBA classification. Now, again, these are published on the web, so you can actually see those. But it's worth seeing that, significant remediation basically means it's probably rewrite it, you're probably going to be in that position that it's simply not going to work. So is that okay? Yeah, okay, great. So if I flick back to my report, let's take a look at that. So, sorry, I'm just finding it difficult to see what I'm looking at. If I go to VBA results here, we actually get a pretty comprehensive view of what I've basically found within my, with running these reports. And there's a couple of things I want to draw your attention to. The first thing is that you might see here that you've actually got the same VBA in multiple documents. It's found in multiple places. And in order to sort of consolidate that, we actually create a hash for the VBA that we find and the document so that we can actually reduce the amount of duplication. We don't want you to have to fix things multiple times. If we find something, we want to be able to narrow that down. As you can see, when we go to the guideline, we get a sort of high-level view of the actual VBA, and then we also see under the severity what the remediation is required, and also we move along. We get the source file, we get the hash of the source file as well, what type of source file it was, and we can move across here right to the end to get all the information around those particular VBAs that we've found. So this is quite useful information. Okay, and if you run it across a huge amount of machines, you're going to get quite a lot of information back, which you can obviously then slice and start to figure out the remediation that you need to run. Now, from a point of view of moving to 64-bit, we also add in proposed changes. So where we've actually got a piece of code here, where the original code was written, we actually make a proposed change to that individual code for you to actually enable you to rewrite that code for it to be used in a 64-bit version of Office 365 ProPlus. And right at the beginning, that I skipped over on the other side, we just get an overview of effectively the things we found and the documents we found. So if you think about it, the table that was very long and very complex was every single instance. This gives you an overview of the summary of exactly how many VBAs were found and what documents they were actually found in. So you can really narrow down, these are the documents, these are the VBAs that we want to actually work on. You've then got to make a call with the actual department to say, is this actually something you really care about? You know, if it's something that we can live without, do we spend a lot of time remediating it? Do we rewrite it? Do we recreate it? Do we use a modern add-in? Whatever we decide to do, we can do that. But it's very difficult to be able to give users this level of confidence without being able to tell them exactly where, the potential issues are. Sorry, question? Yep, sorry.
Roadmap to move this into Power BI for those pretty dashboards? That's my PFE.
I'm not sure. I don't know if... No, we don't know, I'm afraid. It's something I can find out for you, though. I mean, there's no reason why you couldn't do it. I mean, obviously, it's reporting as an Excel, so it's not so you could actually take these filter them and pull them into Power BI. But I'm not sure whether it's going to be part of any sort of Office 365 Power BI dashboard that we create. I can find out for you, though, and we can push that out.
Manually ETL it to the
Yeah,
database.
yeah.
If there's built-in prettiness.
Yeah. Well, I mean, actually, I should have mentioned when we federate multiple reports, they actually don't come into a Excel sheet in this way. When we federate multiple reports, they actually come out as like a JSON blob, and you actually have to do some merging around that and revamping anyway. So, you can put them back into Excel or potentially use Power BI for that. Sorry, back.
Is there a max number of machines for pulling in on this? Because I know your older versions of telemetry, I think 50,000.
Yeah, you could run multiple. I think there's a max number of results in the rows for the Excel table, but I might have to get back to you on that if there's a max number of machines. I haven't seen it. We can post that back out for you. Sorry. So I haven't seen that in this report. You can obviously do that in the telemetry dashboard. I haven't seen it in here. So that may be a consideration if you have specific names. But yeah, I haven't seen it as a control in here. Okay, so let me just move on a second. I'll go back to my presentation. That's working. Yep, okay. So what I've done in the presentation in the deck is there's actually examples of these of this reporting. So you can actually take these back and you can get an understanding of what it's expected to look like when you run it. So there we've got the overall view and then the actual remediation guidance for 64-bit VBA declare statements. Now the other part of it that we talk about when we also talk about VBAs is there's also a report running for add-ins as well. So when you have add-ins running in your organization, you get a very similar look and feel for the add-in side of things as well. So if I just flick over to my other Excel sheet. Yep. We can see that in this case, we've actually got an overview of an add-in summary across a similar set of documents. And you may remember at the beginning I showed up that little table around the options you had. One of those was whether it was VBA or add-in. I believe with the telemetry dashboard report it's only add-in, but you can check that on the slides when we move in before. So let me just get rid of that. So we can see the number of add-ins, and again if I go into here I can see my add-in details as well. So I can find the add-in name, the publisher of that add-in, where it resides, crucially how many times it's installed, and also whether it is supported, adopted, unknown, etc. Now, I can go over back to my slides here and give you a little bit more information about what those classifications actually mean. So, because I'm sure that would have been a question. Obviously, if there's a supported version available, that's fairly self-explanatory, but adopted and highly adopted are interesting because this is basically us using our understanding of what's out there, globally to give you an understanding of how often this add-in is being used in a real-world situation. So you can go with fairly high levels of confidence that this add-in is actually being utilized by other companies out there globally, and therefore, you perhaps don't have to do that kind of level of testing and remediation on it. Obviously, if it's unknown or we have insufficient data, we'll declare that as well. But the one that's fairly important is this idea of contact software provider, because we are keen on working with ISVs to help them with keeping their add-ins up to date to Office 365 ProPlus, because we see that that's the future of Office in terms of the way it's deployed. And so we were really going to struggle if ISVs, don't support that platform. So there's a lot of work goes on in the back end around that particular part. And the final piece that I want to just touch on very quickly is this idea of add-in listings. So there's actually a website now which is available, and you can go in to it, which is called readyforwindows.com. And ultimately, this enables you to search through Office add-ins to see if they're suitable to work alongside the latest versions of Office. So again, this may be a way of, once we've run our telemetry in our environment, we get that information back. We can check those add-ins against the Ready for Windows site if it's not already specified on the report, and get a fairly good example of the ones in our environment that we do or do not need to be concerned about as we move to Office 365 ProPlus. And indeed, ISVs themselves can declare support for add-ins through this same portal. So it's a really kind of a push-pull thing, right? So we really want to get ISV support in there as well. So hopefully, the reports answer your key questions. And again, this is something, it's a big improvement over what we had with the Office telemetry dashboard, in terms of its ease of setup, how quick it is to run, and how easy it is to consolidate the data from multiple places. But ultimately, the idea is to answer those questions. What are the add-ins? What are the VBAs? How much work am I going to have to do? And how important are they? And if we can answer those questions based on real organizational data, it becomes a lot easier to sell the concept of moving to Office and being able to shape your deployment based upon the rings that Steve was talking about early on, to really reflect what's actually going on in your environment and minimize any sort of levels of disruption. So I think it's fair to say that as part of the pilot process, we were really interested in feedback from organizations and customers using these toolkits around what you wanted to see. Personally, I think this is a big improvement over the telemetry dashboard, because I think it'll be far more widely adopted and give people real-time information. I know this is just the start of a process to improve the amount of information that we get from Office to enable people to move to Office 365 ProPlus. But if you do have information or feedback for us, please let us know, and we'll obviously take that into consideration. But I guess from a call to action point of view, please go out there and start using the tool. It's freely available. The information to configure it and run it in various different combinations is all online. And as I've said, we'd love to get your feedback on the tool, what it covers and what it doesn't cover. But that's kind of what I had. What we had. We've got a couple of minutes left. We've obviously got one question at the front.
Is the readiness tool for continuous rolling?
No, so it's a one-off rollout, yes. So hence why we run it as a command line, generally speaking, a bit wider, so you can keep running that executable. But it's slightly different for the telemetry dashboard. Obviously, that's a continuous process of gathering information. But there's no reason why you couldn't carry on doing that and then bringing that information into the report. Correct. Yeah. It's designed to be as simple as we could make it, I guess. Anyone? Yep, one at the back.
Yeah, is it that files stored in the cloud are not scanned?
Not at the moment, yeah.
How about OneDrive files? Okay, is there a plan?
I'm not aware of any plans at the moment. I don't know if you are.
I'm not
No,
familiar.
again, we'll take that one away and we'll come back to you. So you can do that on your network, but not in, say, for example, a SharePoint document library or OneDrive for Business at the moment. we'll take that feedback back, April.
If the files have been synced down, you could run it down.
Yes, correct. Yeah, so you could do that. Yeah, I should have thought of that. Well done. Yeah, you can do that. Oh, sorry. Yeah, we haven't been repeating the questions. Sorry. So the questions were, will it target OneDrive? And the answer was at the moment no. But if you sync the files down, then you should be able to run it against those files that are locally held there.
Slightly off topic, but also Steve, I think we'll answer since I didn't get to it in the last session. With the new version of Office ProPlus that's coming out, you said there's a little bit better functionality for the read-only, wouldn't be quite as noisy. Do you know anything about that and what we can do to leverage that, kind of like the old viewers?
Is that in relation to the updated RFM functionality? Is that the context? The- Okay, so if Harry was talking about it, it would have been the reduced functionality mode and bringing more of that control to you. And so effectively, you can, I think, print and view, and that's it. You can't do anything else. As of today, the RFM mode is something that we can control based off of, the license is expired, don't let it do things, and whatever. We're extending that such that you can control within your own enterprise, flipping that bit to say, no, put these ones into that RFM mode, which restricts all of the edit, save, etc.
Make it less noisy so they don't put banners and the pop-ups all the time.
Correct.
You really use it as a viewer.
I've not heard of it as being a replacement for a viewer, but I think you could use it that way if you wanted to. Yep.
Okay.
It's a licensing question, but if I'm using Office 365 and then a bunch of users have MSI versions of Visio and Project, what's the remediation? Because they don't talk to each other.
No, they kind of do now. So that there is a way of there's a way of fixing that now. So I can't remember the exact details, but there's a process of effectively mapping the user license back against. Is it a?
Yeah. And are you talking about 2016 or older? Yeah. So for 2016, there's actually click-to-run volume licensed SKUs available for specifically Visio and Project now. And if you were using those should work together more or less seamlessly with the rest of the ProPlus clients. They're the only apps that we support in the VL way with click-to-run in 2016. But if you were to migrate to those, you should see that work as if it was all part of the same suite.
Likewise, if you have it MSI installed, 2016, then it will work on that as well. So
2016 MSI working with click-to-run 2016.
As far as I'm aware, that's.
You'll hit some corner cases there. If you can, switch to the volume license click-to-run SKUs of Visio and Project in 2016.
Come up to the end, I'll have a quick look. Okay, thanks a lot, guys. Really appreciate it.